Special meeting is called back to order. Will the secretary please note that all board members are present with the exception of Senator Alston and Nikita Ross. The first item on the agenda is 3B, motion to adjourn executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn the executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to adjourn has been made by Board Member Oliver and seconded by Clerk Marquez. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is 3D, motion to adjourn the special meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
So moved.
Second? Motion to adjourn has been made by Board Member Oliver, seconded by Clerk Marquez. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We are adjourned. Bang. All right. Next one. Public hearing on the hearings on the budget and truth and taxation are called into order. Will the secretary please note that all board members are present with the exception of Nikita Ross. Please, and Senator Leila Alston. Please note that today's meetings are being live streamed. Also, please note that we have a Spanish interpreting services available in the back room. Can we play the audio?
Si necesita intérprete en español, favor de mirar a nuestro intérprete que se encuentra a un lado del cuarto. Gracias.
Item 2A, public hearings on the 2024-2025 proposed budget and the 2024-2025 truth and taxation notice. Ms. Sherry Salaya, Chief Financial Officer, will provide a brief presentation. We will open the floor for public comment immediately after this presentation. Ms. Salaya.
Good evening, President Napa, Governing Board, Superintendent Andrade, leadership, and community. This evening, we will hold two public hearings. First, for the 2024-2025 proposed budget, and then second, for the 2024-2025 truth and tax notification. Prior to the hearings, I will provide a very brief review of the highlights of the 2024-2025 proposed budget. Before I begin, I would like to inform you that we now have a final state budget. Given the $1.8 billion state deficit, the majority of state agency budgets were actually reduced. Fortunately, I understand that K-12 funding was protected, specifically by maintaining the poverty funding that was provided to us just a couple of years ago and the 2% increase to the base level. The budget also includes waiving the aggregate expenditure limit for the 2024-2025 year. Other budget highlights include new standards for ESAs and the controversial move of sweeping the opioid lawsuit settlement funds of $120 million to backfill the state budget. There will likely be a lawsuit related to this move. So the assumptions used, again, just a reminder, to develop the 2024-2025 proposed budget are that ADM would remain flat at $26,193, the base level per pupil funding amount of $5,013 at 2%, and this is in alignment with the budget just approved by our legislature. A slight decline in the teacher experience index to 1.315 from 1.038, and this is going to have a slight negative impact to our budget. A slight decline in the Arizona State retirement to 12.27% from 12.29%, and this decline is going to have a slight positive impact for both the budget and staff. We continue to maintain that 75-25% split for the division of capital outlay revenue limit between maintenance and operations and unrestricted capital. And again, the proposed budget also includes the salary and benefits package that you approved in January as follows: step movement on all salary schedules for eligible staff, a base increase to all salary schedules of 1.53%, which brings the certified base to $53,000, a one-time retention payment from ESSER funds of $4,000 for all returning full-time staff, and $2,000 for returning part-time staff. a one-time new hire incentive stipend of $2,500 for full-time staff and $1,250 for part-time staff, full implementation of the 4-year medical benefits modification plan, a 7.5% increase in annual medical benefits rates, and $500,000 set aside for professional growth for all employee groups. This slide is depicting PXU's historical total property tax rates and the estimated tax rate for the 2024-2025 year. Again, we've been fortunate to see a steady decline in the tax rate, even with voter approval of the 2023 bond initiative. We relate this steady decline in our tax rate to our robust growth in our district's assessed value. Oh, I jumped too fast. So now we'll start our public hearings. Are there any questions or comments from the public or governing board related to the 2024-2025 proposed expenditure budget? And we'll start with anyone registered online.
We don't have anyone online, and we don't have anyone registered for in-person, to my knowledge, yet. We don't have anyone for public comment.
Any questions from the board? Nope. Okay. Per Truth and Tax, the next hearing. Per Arizona Revised Statutes 15905-01B, it requires that each fiscal year in which a school district governing board levies an amount for adjacent ways, a public hearing must be held. Adjacent ways funds are restricted for use for typically land improvements in right-of-way areas adjacent to a school site. An example of this would be bringing water and power services through a right-of-way to a school site. Are there any questions or comments from the public or board regarding the 2024-2025 Truth and Tax notification? Hearing none, then we can move into the special meeting.
Item 3A, adjournment of the public hearings. Is there a motion to adjourn the public hearings?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion to adjourn has been made by Board Member Oliver and seconded by Clerk Marquez. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Moving on to the special budget meeting, that's now called to order. Will the secretary please note that all board members are present with the exception of Senator Alston, and is Board Member Ross online? No? Okay. Board Member Ross is also not present. The first item on the agenda is 1C, Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence. We will stand as Board Member Oliver leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing while a moment of silence is observed.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I can see you all's cameras, which is good. I mean, I can see you all, so that's good. I don't think panelists can, let me make sure.
Please be
I'm muted.
seated.
I'm muted.
The next item on the agenda is 1D, Land Acknowledgement Statement. Please remain seated as Clerk Marquez reads the PXU Land Acknowledgement Statement.
The Phoenix Union High School District is responsible for and committed to creating educational environments that prioritize the achievements of Native American students. We are committed to making their cultural identity visible by acknowledging that our school district resides upon the ancestral lands of the original caretakers, the Huhugum, ancestors of the Akameril Atham, Ankh, Akameril Atham, Thana Atham, and the Akchin. These sovereign nations are presently known as the Gila River Indian Community, Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, Thana Atham Nation, and the Akchin Indian Community. This formal acknowledgement is dedicated to the 22 sovereign nations of Arizona. PXU understands the importance of providing reparations through truth-telling. We recognize the historical injustices not traditionally taught in the classroom and are committed to the practices prioritizing Native American knowledge, history, representation, and healing. We commit with an open mind to always respect the land, its histories, and its ancestors.
The next item is 2A, adoption of the 2024-25 expenditure budget. Is there a motion to adopt the 2024-25 expenditure budget?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Clerk Marquez and seconded by Board Member Oliver. Is there any discussion? On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And I'd like to note that Board Member Ross is now online. 3A, motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn the first special meeting on the budget?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Board Member Oliver, seconded by Clerk Marquez. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. The first special meeting is adjourned. You good? Okay. The second special meeting is called to order. Will the secretary please note that all board members are present with the exception of Senator Leila Alston. The first item on the agenda is item 2A, approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion has been approved a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented has been made by Board Member Oliver, seconded by Clerk Marquez. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is 6A, approval of the recommendations for alternative to expulsion placement for student 2023-24-10. Is there a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for an alternative to expulsion placement for student identified as 2023-24-10?
I motion.
A second?
Second.
A motion has been made by Board Member Ross and seconded by Board Member Oliver. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? Motion carries. The next item is 6B, discussion of school board governance models and training with potential action. Ms. Andrade.
Good evening, President Napa, members. I wanted to go ahead and bring this item back, primarily because I think we're at a little bit of a crossroads as we head into the summer and the launch of the 24-25 school year. On June 10th and 11th, I had the opportunity to meet with the executive team, and we spent the good part of a day together, really closing out the current strategic plan, measuring progress, lifting up what needs to still be accomplished, and really recognizing the contributions and celebrations that we worked hard as a whole district to accomplish over the last 5 years through a pandemic. But we're ready for the next iteration. We're ready to get streamlined. We're ready to get focused on a few key priorities for this district. And absent of board goals, which I know that this team is capable and wanting to do, it will be hard for our teams to engage the stakeholders in the process, to align resources and to develop strategies together in the big picture if we don't even know what the end game specifically is. Broad topics like improving achievement won't cut it for us. We need specific measurable goals. We also have July 19th dedicated and allocated for board retreat. And again, I would like to propose that we use that time with an expert consultant. I can make a few calls in the coming weeks to try to find someone that will come in and help us develop board goals and the remaining items that are on board docs right now, I think are worthy of consideration at a future agenda item. Like, we can talk about how the board operates and what kind of governance model, but for right now, I am just anxious to get moving with board adopted goals so that our teachers and our staff all can understand our vision and our purpose moving forward as we launch 24-25. I am prepared to release an RFQ and bring that back and have the board participate in scoring for a long-term solution. But for right now, I would like the board to just have a brief discussion, primarily around that July 19th date and moving forward, what your wishes are, since it is your professional development. Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, go ahead.
I like the idea that superintendent put forth of gathering one or two people who could, or give us a list of one or two people who could get us working toward the board goals as soon as possible. I like that idea.
Thank you, Board Member Ross. Is there any other discussion? Nope.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I do like the idea as well of having a working session where we discuss as a board the goals that we've laid out. One thing, and maybe Superintendent Andrade, this is what you had in mind, but I think it's important for us to have a board coach that will guide or, help and guide the board in making sure that any goals that we set as a district have input from our key stakeholders, including students, parents, families, educators, our employees, that this is a robust process and that it's centered on improving the academic achievement of the students that were served, because ultimately that's why we're all here.
Thank you, President Napa. Member Para, just to make sure that we're absolutely clear, if the board does participate in the facilitation with an expert on the development of goals, what you'd like to see my team do is then go ahead and take that back out to the community and really test it against stakeholder engagement and their feedback. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, Superintendent Andrade. Yeah, so similar to what some of our neighboring partner districts have done, Roosevelt, Creighton, Phoenix Elementary have adopted a board governance framework that includes a robust stakeholder process that provides input. So we have buy-in, when we talk about what we're actually working towards, that those goals are presented to our community for feedback and that we're all kind of working on the same page. So to me, whatever process that we adopt, I think we can create our own goals internally, but I do believe that there needs to be a stakeholder input process before the board finalizes any of those goals. And I think it's going to take more than one session to do that, or more than just a couple of visits from some external vendor to guide. Like, this is actually an intensive process that the boards have implemented and have collaborated on with their community. And already the ones that have committed to this framework are seeing gains in academic achievement. Roosevelt recently saw a 5% growth in math proficiency and a 3% growth in literacy rates. And so when it comes to a laser focus, like you said, Superintendent, on achievement, that's the kind of focus that I think Phoenix Union needs to commit to as well.
Thank you.
Anything further? Yeah, so just to clarify, we can move forward with looking for someone to come in as a initial board coach for our July board retreat, with the intention of building out or mapping out further actions to get stakeholder buy-in. Does anybody have any discussion around that? Clerk Marquez?
No, I agree with what both board member Pata and Ross said. I think, the first step is, having this board retreat and sort of getting a conversation started with the board and the executive team about some possible SMART goals for the district. But I think whatever SMART goals we develop, they may be tentative, for this next school year. But I think, as the district, looks to adopt longer term, maybe 5-year goals, or 4-year goals, certainly those longer term goals, we're going to need to have a much larger stakeholder process for. But I think the board retreat will be a great start to set goals for the next school year.
President Napa, Member Marquez. I want to go ahead and echo that, and also recognize that we have, if a coach were to come in, we have a tremendous amount of data that our team has been collecting historically for the board and the expert to kind of really dig in on and examine our historical trends to make that an appropriate benchmark or an appropriate goal. And at the same time, we also went through a pretty extensive Cognia review process during the accreditation, which engaged a lot of stakeholders. We still have parents and community and others that we need to get out there and test this with. But I would say let's go ahead and leverage. We have, again, the data, historical portraits on our district in each school. We have the Cognia accreditation, which is a thick packet of just lots of feedback on where we can do better as an institution. And let's not forget the superintendent search data. There were focus groups, there were surveys, and while much of it was around the attributes of a leader, if I recall, there was a pretty healthy SWOT analysis around the strengths of the district and the weaknesses, and that really, that's recent data. That's live data to really tap into, and as we move forward. But we want to make sure that whether it's survey data that we've gone out, and I think to Member Parra's point, engaged our communities locally with parents and community within each of the pockets across the district. Thank you.
Madam President?
Sure.
Yes, Board Member Ross.
I love that Superintendent pointed out that we do have a place to start, because I agree with Member Parra that we want to always incorporate our community input in making decisions. And I recognize that we started this conversation a year ago in July at our last board retreat, and I don't feel like we've made a lot of progress. And so the fact that Superintendent Andrade said, here are some places that we can start, we do have some information, that makes me really excited. And I'm hoping that we can move forward and make some progress.
President Napa.
Go for it.
Totally agree with everything that has been said, but also I do know that we owe the superintendent her review criteria based on SMART goals. So I think that this would all help us be able to put that together so that we can be fair to her and make sure that she has that in a timely fashion, because it's June and July 1st is around the corner. So, I mean, we'll be a few weeks late, but still, we owe her that.
Thank you for that. Is there any more discussion?
Madam Chair?
Go for it.
Yep, just real quick, and I agree, I echo the sentiment, and I certainly wouldn't want to hold up any process. I just think from and Superintendent Andrade, I appreciate that you lifted up, like, we have a foundation of where to start and like data to share with the community. I think when I'm talking about like the robust feedback and maybe like sitting down with the superintendents from the other school systems who have adopted this model and their accompanying board members as well. They set the goals, right? Like, so if their goal is to increase the proficiency rates of, X student by X percent, like they're very explicit about that goal for the year. And then they go out to the community and get input on that, the goals that they have set. So the board presents the goals that the board sets for itself to the community to get feedback from the community on if that is the right direction. So I think it's more than just, giving us the survey data, but actually getting feedback from the goals that we have set. So I think for me, it's like, yes, let's definitely move forward. I think to Member Oliver's point, like, I don't want to slow the train down any longer. As someone who's been advocating for this for more than a year. But I also think that we as a board have to commit to long-term professional development goals and long-term goals for the district. And so that's just something that I don't want to miss in this process, that any goals that we set, that we do it in partnership with our community, and that we're collaborating with our key stakeholders like families to get the right guidance from them in this whole process. So yeah, just that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to move to authorize the superintendent to procure a third-party vendor to provide the governing board professional development to include creating governing board goals established for the district. Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion by myself, second by board member Ross. Is there any discussion? More discussion? Okay. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. 7A, next meeting. The next regular meeting of the governing board is scheduled for Thursday, August 1st, 2024, approximately 6 p.m. Item 7B, requests for future agenda items. Anyone?
I have one.
Clerk Marquez?
I would like to request at a future meeting that we look again at paid family leave policies for the district. I met with the CFO from the Tempe Elementary School District, and I think they've done some interesting things. So maybe our finance staff can meet with them to figure out how they're doing it in Tempe.
Thank you. Anything else? Not a board meeting agenda item. I just wanted to lift up that graduations were exceptional. Yes. And if there was one way that I feel that we could improve for inclusiveness is to potentially explore some sort of translator over radio frequency. So those who have a cell phone or have a FM radio can tune into an FM and hear it in Spanish. A lot of what we do is in English. I wish I spoke Spanish. And I just feel for those families and parents who are not able to fully experience graduation and all the wonderful things that we say and do. All right. 7C, motion to adjourn the second special meeting. Having concluded our business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I motion.
Having,
Second.
motion has been made by board member Oliver and seconded by board member Ross. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.